We come on the air now at noon with some breaking news. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Kaylin Hagwood in for Sarah French. Right now, Cornelius police say they're responding to a situation at Bailey Middle School. The department tweeting this message out in the last hour. Now, it's unclear what exactly is happening. CMS only telling us there was an alleged incident.
Meanwhile, Cornelius PD says parents should report to Fomex on Old Statesville Road. We're told buses are shuttling kids from Bailey Road Park nearby to that location. Parents should not come to the school. We repeat, parents should not go to the school. Now, as we get new details into our newsroom, we'll be sure to bring those to you both on air and also inside the WCNC Charlotte app. Now to some major breaking news. In a decades-long search for a little girl named Aisha Degree, we have just, in the last few minutes, gotten our hands on search warrants executed by multiple law enforcement agencies in Cleveland County in the last week.
Let's get right to WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker, who is live in Cleveland County. Austin, what are you learning?
Yeah, so we've actually been waiting quite a few days for these warrants to come out. You know, this search happened back on Tuesday at a property off of Cherryville Road. That's right here in Shelby. Now, that being said, this is over 100 pages. We just got this minutes ago, and inside of it, a lot of new details I've been sifting through right now, but we'll continue to bring you new updates throughout the day. But the big one that we want to also make sure you are hearing is that based on these findings, this is what it says right here. Investigators believe Aisha Degree is a victim of homicide with her body concealed. Now, again, back on Tuesday, investigators and law enforcement were at the scene on Cherryville Road at a house that was owned by Roy Dedman. We did hear from Dedman's attorney, who says that he is wrapped up in this and is in a situation he should not be in. Now, the attorney says when these warrants were going to come out, he believes that this was going to tie somebody specifically to the disappearance of Aisha Degree, as well as more information about how that person might be dead. Again, we are just learning a lot of information right now at this time, so we'll bring you updates throughout the rest of the day. But we want to also tell you that, again, this is 100 pages long, so we will be going through this. Again, one of the biggest lines in here is, based on these findings, investigators believe that Aisha Degree is a victim of homicide with her body concealed. Again, we will make sure to have you the latest updates, so stick with us right here on WCNC Charlotte throughout the rest of the day. But for now, we're live from Cleveland County. Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte. And
just that little bit of information, that little nugget, heartbreaking for a lot of people to hear, because over the past 2 decades, a lot of folks had hoped, even it didn't seem likely, that she might still be alive, and it appears that is not the case anymore, just in this little bit of detail that Austin's providing for us. Austin, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that information, 20 years in the making there. We'll check back in with him at 4. Now to your weather impact forecast as we track a potential tropical storm impacting the Carolina coast. You're taking a live look from Wilmington. The storm has been bringing heavy rain, which officials warn could lead to some dangerous flash flooding and impact our area here during our commute.
That's right, and we are already starting to see those impacts in just the last 15 minutes. The National Weather Service tweeting out these pictures showing cars submerged in the water. This is right there in Wilmington.
Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy tracking the impacts to your day. Chris, what can you tell us?
Just letting you know, a tremendous amount of rain is going to be affecting those areas around Wilmington, also inland. You know how many streams and rivers are around there. We have active flash flood warnings. You've even seen signs of some tornado warnings that have popped up, all associated with the system. So it's really from Wilmington up to the Outer Banks that we're seeing those heavier bands of rain. Meanwhile, some of that moderate to heavy rain is now working its way into some of our eastern zones. Just mainly light to moderate rain is what we're seeing across the greater Charlotte area, but right around Anson County, Richmond County, that's where we're starting to see a real uptick as far as that rain intensity goes, and that's where most of the rain is going to be. So our futurecast, keeping rain pretty much around the entirety of today. It's going to be a slow add as far as rainfall goes. I think at most up to about a quarter inch per hour for Charlotte directly, but those rain rates could double to even triple once you get a little bit closer to the evening. That's where some of the heavier bands of rain are going to roll through. You're also going to notice the winds will pick up through the afternoon. I'm anticipating gusts to be really averaging around 30 miles per hour, but I think they could be as much as 45 miles per hour later on this evening, heading into the early morning hours. You can see by about 10 to midnight, one of the most recent updates does have this starting to calm down a little bit, unravel a little bit heading into the early morning hours. Then by the afternoon, things are shaping up to be much better. Current temperatures, we have now officially lost 4 degrees off of our temperature. That's because that rain cool air is here to stay. So expect really the mid 60s for the rest of the afternoon going forward. Not really moving too much. Have the umbrella. Today's even a rain jacket type of day. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit more about the impacts and what I'm really anticipating heading into the evening and when all is said and done.
Chris, thanks. Now to more breaking news. In just the last 30 minutes, we've learned the man accused of trying to kill former President Donald Trump over the weekend is facing federal gun charges. Ryan Ruth just made his first appearance in federal court in the last hour.
Well, today we're also learning Ruth lived in Greensboro until earlier this year, and according to his LinkedIn profile, he attended North Carolina A&T. Just hours ago, we reached out to the university verifying those claims. A spokesperson tells us he attended in 1995, didn't earn a degree, though. Now, we also dug into the Department of Corrections records and found he has a lengthy criminal history right here in North Carolina.
Back in 2002, some more than 20 years ago, he barricaded himself inside a Greensboro business with a gun. A year later, he was sentenced with driving without a license, carrying a concealed weapon, and hit and run. And then in 2010, he was convicted of possession of stolen goods.
Well, these new details come as a spotlight shines on the Secret Service yet again.
Concerns are growing over the agency's ability to protect the nation's top politicians. NBC's Hallie Jackson has those details.
New questions being raised about the Secret Service after what the FBI describes as an apparent assassination attempt on former President Trump.
We live in dangerous times.
It comes just about 2 months after the first one at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. This time, officials say an agent opened fire after spotting a rifle near the former president's golf course in South Florida while Mr. Trump was playing.
He's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. The Secret Service did exactly what they should have done.
The agency has added personnel to Mr. Trump's protective detail since the Butler shooting, and they're also including more bulletproof glass at certain outdoor events. Lawmakers in both parties praising the Secret Service for its quick response while questioning whether more should be done.
We need to be taking a serious look at whether we are allocating resources correctly. Do we need more Secret Service agents?
The idea that there has been 2 attempts and they have been able to get close enough to the former president is deeply disturbing. I'm concerned that Donald Trump is actually not safe.
What happened Sunday? A contrast to the attempted assassination in July. In Florida, officials say Mr. Trump was 300 to 500 yards from where the weapon was spotted and walked away unharmed. In Pennsylvania, the shooter was about 150 yards at a publicly announced event and fired a shot that injured the former president's ear. The Secret Service has acknowledged a systematic breakdown in Butler, with Kimberly Cheadle resigning as the agency's chief just a day after taking heat from both parties on Capitol Hill.
You're full of today.
If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign.
Just days ago, the acting Secret Service director briefing lawmakers about the Pennsylvania attack after a bipartisan task force opened an investigation.
Are you confident that today Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are safe given their security details?
Well, we're working to help restore the confidence of the American people, and that's actually one of the things that this task force takes very seriously.
Well, back here at home, crews are out on Lake Wylie searching for a missing swimmer. Yesterday, crews spent hours looking near the Catawba Yacht Club. At this time, we're still trying to figure out what that person was doing when they disappeared.
Right now, a 12-year-old facing involuntary manslaughter charges in connection to the death of a 16-year-old. Jaden Harris was shot and killed Friday on Burnt Umber Drive in East Charlotte. As of right now, we're told the 12-year-old is back home with their family.
Well, we're also learning that a shooting in Southwest Charlotte is now being investigated as a murder-suicide. Police say they found 2 people shot Friday at the True by Hilton Hotel on Kings Parade Boulevard. Investigators are not releasing the names of those involved at this time. Now, right now, 2 people are facing charges after a police chase ended on I-77. It started yesterday when Mooresville police got an alert about a stolen car. Now, when officers tried to stop the driver, they say that individual sped away. Eventually, the chase ended near Raymount Road, and police arrested Skylar Wilson and Christian Dos Santos. We spoke to witnesses who tell us they're concerned about the dangers these chases pose to innocent bystanders.
Is it something that could have been prevented or got to a safer region and stopped them? Because this is in the middle of the highway practically. So it's not safe for anybody.
Well, at this hour, both suspects are behind bars in Iredell County.
Starting today, if you don't pay for parking in Uptown or South End, it'll officially cost you. New parking rules went into effect a few weeks ago, but the city gave everybody a bit of a grace period to adjust to the changes. WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards joins us with the details.
On September 3rd, on-street paid parking hours were extended to 10 p.m. And starting today, you could end up paying a fine if you don't comply with the change.
There are more than 1,200 metered parking spaces in Uptown and South End, with drivers paying $1.50 an hour at the meter. Now, if you stay parked beyond the 2-hour time limit without paying again, you could be given a $25 citation. The city is hoping there will be more turnover, so visitors can enjoy short-term parking for shopping, dining, and conducting business. This was also the goal last year when the city introduced paid parking on Saturdays. Sustain Charlotte believed it would make streets safer for drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians.
I think it's a smart move overall for everyone. There's always a spot available. You don't have to drive around the blocks several times.
If you do happen to get a parking citation, you can pay it or appeal it on the city's website. That's charlottenc.gov. For WCNC Charlotte, I'm Destiny Richards.
Well, coming up in 3 minutes, we verify how the rules surrounding absentee ballots can differ between the Carolinas and what you need to know before North Carolina sends ballots out Friday.
Now to an update to that breaking news we mentioned at the top of the hour. CMS now tells us a bomb threat prompted an evacuation at Bailey Middle School this morning. And it's important to say here, at this hour, the district says a preliminary search did not turn up any devices.
That's right. Cornelius police do say, however, parents should report to Fomex on Old Statesville Road. We're told buses are shuttling kids from Bailey Road Park to that location after this incident. Parents should not come to the school.
Our crew at the scene just got this video of parents waiting. You can see a lot of folks there in the rain. Again, at this hour, important to say no devices have been found, and parents should respond to Fomex to pick up their kids.
Let's turn to the race for the White House. On Friday, North Carolina is set to send out absentee ballots. They were supposed to go out on the 6th, but they had to be reprinted to get RFK Jr.'s name off after he suspended his campaign.
That's right. Meantime, in South Carolina, you can now request an absentee ballot. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg is looking at the differences between the Carolinas when it comes to absentee ballots.
When it comes to North and South Carolina, there are a lot of differences when it comes to laws. That's no different in regards to absentee ballots. So let's take a look at who can request them.
Our sources, the North Carolina State Board of Elections, the South Carolina Election Commission, and Mecklenburg County Elections Director Michael Dickerson. When it comes to getting an absentee ballot in North Carolina,
we're a no excuse absentee state. So you just want to have one. You'd rather vote an absentee ballot by mail instead of getting out and voting early or getting out and voting on election day. You may do that.
You can easily request a ballot with just one click of a button. In South Carolina, it's not that easy. You actually need an excuse to get an absentee ballot. Some of those excuses include being out of the country, people 65 and older, a member of the military, and patients in the hospital. North Carolina's absentee ballots are due by 7 p.m. on Election Day, while South Carolina's absentee ballots are due October 25th.
The rules for sending your ballot back differ a bit in each state as well. We have all that information on our website, WCNC.com. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
All right, now let's get another check of your WCNC weather impact forecast as we track potential tropical storm impact in the Carolinas.
Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy joining us once again here, Chris, and we know this is going to be, or appears to be, another slow-moving storm. Those can have big impacts.
The good news for us, this wasn't as strong as Debbie. However, there are some similar impacts right around the Wilmington area heading inland. So it's really this stretch right here in the southeastern side of North Carolina that's going to have the biggest impacts, the most flooding. However, we're already starting to see some of the heavier bands working to our eastern zones. So it's really by the end of the afternoon, we're going to see a big difference. It's really hour by hour going forward from now compared to the most recent advisory that we are going to see the winds pick up, the rain intensity pick up, and gusts as high as 65 miles per hour more likely along the shoreline. I think that they max out anywhere from 40 to 45 here a little bit close to the Charlotte area, where even if this gets a name, now note, potential tropical cyclone 8 just means that, hey, this likely could become either a tropical depression or a tropical storm. Right now, the winds would support a tropical storm name. It would be Tropical Storm Helene, but it is very disorganized right now. So regardless of it having a name or not, or a very long one that you're seeing right here, you're still going to have gusty winds and a lot of rain that comes with this system. So the main weather aware window I have for us is 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. At that point, that means that our wind advisory is officially in full gear. We're going to see the heaviest rain during that point, the strongest winds, and that's really, I think, you have the sweet spot for some down trees as well. The Futurecast, the one that I like and that I'm really banking on the most, is this one right here. So this model is showing a range anywhere from about 1.5 inches to 3 inches across the greater Charlotte area. I think there could be a couple of closer to 4-inch totals the further east that you go. Here's our Futurecast. This is 4 o'clock. This is where our weather aware window starts to open up. At this point, we're seeing much heavier rain, widespread for hours, 1/4 to 1/2 inch per hour from Monroe to Albemarle to Wadesboro. So I think it's definitely worse the further east you go of I-77, because whatever this storm is called, maybe just a low pressure system, Helene, or the leftovers of potential tropical cyclone number 8, you're still going to have the gusty winds and the heaviest rain that arrives by the early to mid evening hours. At that point, this is 9 o'clock, seeing a real soaker right along the I-77 corridor. The most recent model update has the heaviest rain over the mountains between about midnight and 4. I think you still have some rain happening at this point, but that means the center of circulation's over us. So we could have the strongest wind gusts really anywhere from late evening heading into the early morning hours, and then some lingering rain is going to be possible left over from the system before it eventually fizzles out on top of us. As I mentioned, the wind advisory officially is in full gear starting at 2 o'clock till 2 a.m. So I think it's really the end of the evening that we have some of our gustier winds. But you notice by 4 o'clock, we're still having gusts as much as 30 to 40 miles per hour further off towards the east. Charlotte seeing 30 to 35 as we start off the evening, seeing some of those peak winds really by the end of the evening to the early morning hours, and then things start to calm down a little bit. Still gusting to about 20 miles per hour through your Tuesday morning, and much better by Tuesday afternoon. So the reason why I think one of our biggest issues is why trees could fall is because we all had this graphic for Debbie, is that whenever you get a precursor rain like this, the wet ground is going to loosen the roots, making it more susceptible to winds to come down. So I think that's exactly what we're going to see. So some uprooted, shallow trees like an oak, I think you're going to see some of those reports a little bit later on. Outside of that, things get a lot better after today and tomorrow for the first half. We have the upper 70s and then back to some great days in the lower 80s to end the week and start the weekend.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense. As we speak, tens of thousands of Boeing workers are on strike. But what's that impact mean for all of us flyers?
If the strike drags on, experts worry the airlines might not be able to meet demand for next summer's peak travel season. Let's connect the dots. U.S. carriers that rely heavily on Boeing include Southwest, United, and Alaska Airlines. For now, Boeing has shifted work to the company's non-union facility in South Carolina. However, Reuters reports the company warned suppliers that key deliveries will be pushed back by 6 months. While operations are unlikely to be affected in the coming months, we could start to see issues next summer. And if the strike drags on, Boeing may struggle to deliver the expected number of planes. And if that happens, it could impact the number of flights and destinations available next summer. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Well, coming up next in sports, some fans think it's going from bad to worse. We're going to take a look at the Panthers' latest loss and what can be done to save the season that's coming up.
Julian Council from our partners at Locked On Panthers here after a 26-3 loss to the Chargers puts the Panthers at 0-2. Julian, it feels bad. Can you put perspective on how bad it actually is?
Yeah, some would say actually it's the worst start in franchise history, Nick. Our good friend Jonathan Jones, who used to cover the Panthers for The Observer, he's now at CBS Sports nationally. He put out this stat that the Panthers' 13 points are the lowest they've ever had in the first 2 weeks of a season. The 345 total yards on offense are also a franchise low through 2 games. And then the 73 points they've given up on defense are the most they've given up through 2 weeks. So that clearly states to me that this is the worst start in franchise history at 0-2 with that anemic offense and a defense that right now can't stop anybody. Whether it's the Saints, who looked good against Cowboys on Sunday, or the Chargers, both sides of the ball and special teams are all struggling.
And, of course, the focus is going to be on the quarterback. Bryce Young, 2 interceptions last week, 1 this week, but really didn't throw anything aggressive down the field on Sunday against the Chargers. 84 passing yards in an NFL game. I mean, it seems like it's regressing, right? Can he dig himself out of this?
Oh, that's going to be the hope for this organization, I'm sure, for a lot of fans out there. And I don't think they have much recourse at this point in time. I don't believe the Panthers went out there and hired Dave Canales and brought in Dan Morgan to be the general manager. I guess supposedly they went down the hallway and elevated him to that GM spot, brought in Brant Tillis to handle contracts and the salary cap and put in money on the offensive line, traded for Deontay Johnson, drafted Xavier Legette. I don't think they did all these things after just 2 weeks of the season to bail on Bryce Young. And as Jay Feely said on the CBS broadcast, they're just going to have to keep playing him and hope that it gets better. So we've seen him play good football in the past. It's been few and far between. So the hope is that after the first 2 weeks, that maybe he gets more comfortable in the scheme and with these players around him and starts to play better. So that's certainly the hope. I don't know how much confidence there is after 2 weeks, but that is the hope that the Panthers can get more out of Bryce Young moving forward.
Well, our severe weather impacts are really going to increase heading into the evening. Right now we have a medium threat for any flooding that could happen, but also our wind gusts are going to be gusting as high as 30 to 40 miles per hour. Keep that in mind. Not a great evening drive. Should be better by tomorrow afternoon.
All right. Our next newscast is at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
All right. More news on our WCNC Charlotte mobile app.